It looks like we live. I'm gonna check on my Facebook profile, man. But yeah, what's going on, everybody? We're doing a pop up live. I'm gonna check my profile and see what's up real quick. But it says we're live. I'm gonna tag you in it, Dave, so you can send it to people or share it. There it is. We live. All right, hold on.
Oh, we're live. Hey, we're live. I just hate. I hate the binary signal that goes
Yeah,
with doing things live with video conferencing because it just sounds a mess.
I'm highlighting people. I'm gonna tag you in it, at David. David Guitar.
I don't particularly like pop-up lives unless I'm prepared.
Yeah, I know, but so I'm watching it. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? We got one person on there. We gotta do a pop up. We got somebody viewing real quick, and we're gonna do a pop up live here about this is election edition. We got this little thing that we about to do up until the election. It's called cognitive dissonance. So if you don't like dealing with controversial subjects and topics, then just don't watch. That's
And
really all
look,
that's
that
to
one
it.
viewer went to zero.
Yeah, that's how it happens. That's what happens. Yeah, it is what it is. But we're gonna talk about some stuff that we feel like is important, and so we want to, man, we're just gonna talk about it. That's really all that's to it.
I don't even think the information is controversial. I think
Go ahead.
what's that?
Nothing. I'm gonna just put this over here in the corner.
I don't even think the information is controversial. I just think that people wouldn't dare or they just refused to look at the entire spectrum of the issues that are happening. They just want to see one side and they choose to hate people. I don't
Yeah.
understand how anybody can be a believer and hate. I don't get it. Like I know, I get it. You can dislike people, you can not care for people, but like when you just show this hatred and vitriol to people that you don't even know.
Yeah, yeah. Ultimately, it's crazy. Like, so I made a post today. I was talking about Christians because we're Christians. We come from a Christian household, and I want to clarify something. So people automatically think that because we are hard on the Democrat side, that we're automatically just Trumper thumpers, right, or Trumpsters or whatever they call it. And we need to clarify that because that's not actually the case. That actually couldn't be farthest from the case. We not necessarily Trumpers or like we're not necessarily Republicans or Democrats or anything like that. What we have in this election, y'all, whether you believe it or not, is bigger than just Republican and Democrat. It's bigger than left versus right. It's way bigger than anything that you can imagine right now or that you can see. I'll put it to you that way. I know that people, conspiracy theorists, right, get a bad rap, but the reality is that there's some things that are happening behind the scenes that conspiracy theorists know about, and it's not really a secret. We just happen to look in places where other people won't look. So we find out information about things that other people don't have. And I don't know, man, how deep we should get into this. Like, if we're going to pull up articles and stuff like that. But there's a lot of things that we can get into that and share videos or whatever else. But there's a lot of things that are going on that we need to. He said, I didn't want to be on anyway. Oh, you want to be on? I'll invite you. I'll send you an invite right now. Don't play with me. Avon said, he said, I didn't want to be on anyway.
See, I think the thing is this, right?
I'll invite you on right now.
If information isn't coming directly from the mainstream media, like the CNNs, the Foxes, the MSNBCs,
Yeah.
all of which are owned by the same companies, by the way, people just seem to believe that if it doesn't populate or propagate on those platforms, that it's
Right.
not true. Because people refuse to look anywhere else. But also, in part, it's not entirely their fault because a lot of information is suppressed.
Yeah.
So, and now I think it very recently, actually, Firefox used to be one of those private browsers, and then Google bought them out. Same thing with DuckDuckGo. So
Yeah.
now there's certain things that you can't even find when you look for,
Yeah,
right?
no, I'm telling y'all, there's stuff that's going on that unless you are looking for the things that are going on, you're not gonna see them. It's literally like having your head in the sand. People who don't pay attention to certain things, who don't want to know certain things, you won't. Right? It's really is, and it's not a slight against anyone. It's not an attack on anyone. This is not to condemn or even demean anyone. This is just a reality of the situation that we have. We have we have legitimately an attack on research. You know, when I was going to school, I had to learn the Dewey Decimal System. We had to go to the library. We had to read books. Do you know over the last 5 years, we are now being condemned for reading books, for finding out information that is freely available inside books. People are being condemned as conspiracy theorists and spreading misinformation or disinformation. But this stuff is actually readily available in books that we have had in our libraries for years. Or if you want to go farther than that, you can go into the Library of Congress. And the Library of Congress has books that have been around for ages and ages. It has all of the books that have been published, right? So there's no excuse for anyone having lack of information. And what happens today in the world that we have today is because someone doesn't know something, number one, or number two, they don't want to believe something, they attack the messenger, right? Rather than vet what's being said or actually doing their own research. I love it, man, when we talking about stuff on social media and then people be like, oh, post the facts, like post it. Where'd you get it from? Post your resources, post your sources or whatever. And I'm like, yo, when you had to do a book report, didn't you have to go and do your own research? Didn't you have to figure out what was actually being said yourself? Like you had to go and research the subject. When did that change? Why did all of a sudden now I find something, I have to provide you all of it? Because even in court, it's not even like that. With court, you have to provide your proof and evidence, and then now it's up to the prosecutor or the defender to go and do research to rebut what you said. You don't give them the answers to the rebuttal. You make your argument. They have to go do research and argue against what you just said. And so I don't know when our society changed to where now everybody's, it's like, I almost said crazy people, but like certain Christians who are like chapter and verse. Go look it up. If what I'm saying to you is something, I'm espousing something that's spiritual or biblical, and you don't know where that is, it behooves you to go look it up, because here's what happens. You end up being, for lack of a better word, I know some people talk about gaslit and whatever else, but you got people who won't go and read this Bible, they won't go and read the books, and then you can present them with evidence or proof or whatever you want to call it, and then they just say that it's fake, or they just say that it doesn't mean that, or they just say this, that, the third. So I don't know what people want. I genuinely don't know what people want today, but it's weird.
Well, and here's the problem, right? By definition, conspiracy, a noun, is an agreement between two or more people, two or more persons to engage secretly in an unlawful or harmful act, right?
Right.
And use deceitful means to accomplish this act. So typically people get the definition of conspiracy absolutely positively wrong.
Correct.
So do you know who created conspiracy? It was the CIA. They created that term conspiracy theorist because what happened was they had people leaving the CIA, blowing the whistle because of the
What they were doing.
because of the harmful things that they were doing. So they
Correct.
said, oh, we're just going to publish this and say this person's a conspiracy theorist. When in reality, a conspiracy would actually be what some of these three-letter agencies may be doing. I have to be very careful about what I say, which is why I said may be doing.
Right, allegedly.
Right.
Yo,
Possibly, potentially.
Possibly, but it's crazy that we live in this kind of world today where like real journalism is actually under attack. Where there are people who are like right now, I'm actually a little concerned for Candace Owens because she's doing some real deep journalism. And she's going back
and people don't like her.
No, they can't stand her. But she's doing real journalism. I don't care if you agree with her politics, her stances, whatever. I don't care if you like the way she says things or doesn't say them, whatever the case may be. Listen, everybody is a human being. Everybody deserves to be treated with respect, dignity, and all that kind of stuff like that. And I don't like the fact that there are some groups who just refuse to treat people with dignity and respect, but they claim to be loving, they claim to be tolerant, and they claim to be the ones who are all for joy, love, peace, and happiness. But as soon as someone disagrees with them, now all of a sudden you become public enemy number one and I have to destroy you. I think that's a spirit. That's an evil, wicked spirit. And just everybody needs to make sure that you are not or participating with that evil, wicked spirit, because it's anti-Christ, because it's anti-human. And as much as you may disagree with someone's politics, you may disagree with someone's perspective, listen, they are still humans. They deserve dignity. They deserve honor. They deserve respect, even if you disagree with them. But we live in a society today where it's okay for some to do and say whatever they want to other people. But the moment the other side says or does something, now it's, oh, you can't do this, you're racist, you're this, you're a bigot, and you're a misogynist, and you're a blah, 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 blah. This is a very dangerous time that we live in. And I don't think the people who espouse those feelings and those thoughts understand what they're participating in. I don't think those people really get it.
Right. Candace Owens. Well, first of all, I don't know any of these people in the media. I don't know Candace Owens to dislike her. I don't know Kamala Harris to dislike her. I don't know Donald Trump to dislike him.
Right.
So I think it's far-reaching to say, oh, I just hate this person, simply because you don't have all of the facts about that particular person. It goes both ways. People that don't like, even Kamala Harris, we don't have all of the information on her.
I don't know her personally.
I don't know her personally. I don't dislike her. In fact, I don't care whether or not she's black. People, for some reason, they keep making a big issue. Whether or not she's black, whether or not she's black, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter at all. To be honest with you, I think she was set up to fail. Like, I think she was just shoved in there. I don't, when I watch her speak and when I watch her make her rounds, it doesn't appear to me as though she wants to be there. Right. I think that she might have been forced. And poor old Joe, they just said, go to sleep.
Yeah, they just put him out. Put him out the
Go
pasture.
to sleep. We're just going to put her right in front of you. So I think most people are being, kind of used as pawns and set up to fail for some sort of larger means. So,
absolutely.
I don't know Kamala, but just from what I see, I don't believe, it doesn't look like she really wants to be there, because I don't see any sort of...
you can't see. This is the type of stuff like people. You know what? It's amazing to me how topics and subjects like these, we can talk about them. We can share honestly, openly, transparently, whatever, and people will literally attack it. When the time comes, when they watch it, they view it, people will attack it. They'll say, "Oh, y'all this, y'all that, y'all." I mean, I legitimately posted something like today, or yesterday. Kamala Harris goes into New Birth, a black church. First of all, I absolutely hate that. I wish y'all black pastors and preachers would stop. Stop inviting politicians into the pulpit. They don't belong there. We got away, even as a black culture, we got away from the idea that the pulpit was a sacred desk. That's what they used to say. A sacred desk. How dare we pull politicians into our churches and then let them stand behind the sacred desk? If you want to set up a podium off to the side or whatever, do that. If you want to set up a separate event or some type of thing where you want to educate and empower your church on politics and civics and civil government, okay, have an event, have a meeting, a conference, or whatever else. But that should not ever be the case on a Sunday morning. And I'm telling you, as a pastor, as a bishop, there is no time ever will a politician, I will never ask, I will never allow, if ever asked, a politician to come and speak to the congregation on a Sunday morning. It is not the place. The church on Sunday morning is for fellowship and worship. Point blank, period. But we got all these people who have bought into these identity politics. They've bought into the agendas. They bought into the rhetoric of one side or another. And it goes for both sides. I'm not talking about one side or the other, because you have the white evangelical side, and yeah, this is gonna be. We talking about cognitive dissonance. We're gonna say some stuff that might ruffle feathers, and you'll be okay. The white evangelicals will have Trump and people and such come to their churches, and then the black evangelicals, whether you want to call Pentecostals, Baptists, and things like that, they are still evangelicals, just a different type. They'll invite the black politicians into their churches. I think that is absolutely one of the worst things that you could do. Have something separate, set up a separate meeting for people who want to come. I'm not saying don't be involved in civics or politics, but it doesn't belong on a Sunday morning. Especially because you have, as a pastor, you have a congregation to lead. And you have to deal with the aftermath of things when you're talking about a worship service and you have a politician comes in that may say things that people in your church disagree with. Your job is to care for the souls of those people in your church. And what ends up happening is you can actually run people in your church away because you're pushing this certain political perspective and point of view on them. And shame on you.
Like, or you could drag them out of the building like they did.
Yeah, like they did this other lady. They had literally had the police and security escort a church member out of the church because she didn't agree with Miss Harris being at the church. And like I said, I don't like these especially the black leaders who play into the identity politics. Again, shame on you. This should not have anything to do with color at all whatsoever.
And don't get it misconstrued. He's not saying that politicians shouldn't show up to the church. He's just saying that they shouldn't mount the pulpit.
Well, it's especially with a day ago or so, they have a rally, and somebody at her rally, because she's talking about abortion, somebody at the rally said Jesus is Lord, and she's like, nah, you at the wrong rally. Like, you need to go down to the smaller one down the street, talking about Trump's, who was having a rally at the same time. But then the next day or two or a couple of days, you're going to show up at somebody's church and then placate like you actually like Jesus? Come on. I'm sorry. I don't like hypocrites. Like, I don't like hypocritical stuff. And again,
and not to turn the corner. I mean, it's still related, but when you spoke about when she was talking about abortion at the rally and the person shouted, Jesus is Lord.
Right.
I think part of the issue is that people largely don't understand what the intent of the Supreme Court is.
No, they don't.
Because the Supreme Court relegated that back to the states.
Yeah.
And contrary to popular belief, your state, local, municipal elections are more important than that of the federal elections. I'll say it again.
Yeah.
The state, local, and municipal elections are far more important, and they impact your life much more than that of the federal election. Federal elections are basically for talking points, for arguing with people.
Right.
You know, I talk to people about it at work, you know, like they're still my colleagues and friends. I don't get upset about any of this stuff.
No.
I mean, they do, but not me, because I don't know these people.
No.
Like, I don't know these people. But it's just one of those things where people were very upset at the, it's very touchy about the Roe v. Wade. They relegated it back to the states. Let the states decide. The states have a function, by the way.
Let's talk about that, though.
Your state is your country.
Period. So this is the thing. People in America don't understand. They stopped teaching civics and government in schools, right? When I was younger, I was probably part of the last generation that actually got to learn about civics, government, and economics. I had an economics class. I had a civil government class. So I learned civics. I understand how things work. After us, it started to change a little bit where they don't teach those things anymore. They teach global or world history, right? No longer American history. It's things like that. And when they do teach American history, it's very small, it's very short, and on purpose, I believe, because they're pushing this globalist agenda. They want everybody to be this one world government, one world religion, globalism. And that's what the agenda has been for quite some time. So they've just been slowly chipping away at our systems. But so what happened is this: when you learn how government works, you have these different tiers. You have your very local government, which is your city, your town, your municipality, whatever else. Then it goes out from that to your county, and then from the county it goes out to the state, and then from the state you have the federal government. Those are the layers of government. What people don't understand It's based on the Constitution for and of the United States of America. The Constitution is a document that actually limits the power of the government. People don't understand that that's what the role and the job of the Constitution is, not to give you rights. It's to tell government what rights you already have, and they cannot and shall not, meaning will not, be infringed upon. Point blank, period. We got to start right there. The government was never supposed to be involved in everyday decisions of our lives, especially not at the federal level. The federal government has very specific jobs. One of those jobs is to protect your rights, period. To protect them, not to give them to you. So they're guaranteed protected under the Constitution. You already have them. You just need to relearn, or some people need to learn for the first time, what those rights actually are, what it is to have a right, right? And they're listed.
They're taking y'all back to school.
Yeah, we got to go back to school, but this is the problem, is that people don't know how this thing works, right? So we have the federal government. Their job is to protect your rights, is to protect our borders from enemies, foreign and domestic. So anybody that comes in that's an enemy of the people, that would do something to the people, it's the government's job to protect those things. It's also the government's job to regulate commerce between the states.
Oh, Wayne.
Yeah.
People also need to know that you can live on the contiguous United States land and be considered a foreigner. You could be born here and
That's
be
correct.
considered a foreigner.
Yes.
So it's not in the colloquial sense or the common sense.
Nah.
You can be, they'll treat you like it says, what document is that consider the citizens sort of an enemy of the state? I can't think of it right now.
Is it
but
a
you know
new,
what I'm talking about?
a new document? Or
No, it might be one of these statutes that like Trading with the Enemy Act.
yes, yeah, that's probably what it is. Traded with the Enemies
Right.
Act. Because when they started messing with the money, that's what they started doing. Is they started making the
Right.
citizens the enemies of America, because it was
Right.
the citizens that America belongs to, technically speaking, right? So what they did was they shifted power out of the hands of the citizens, who are the people, and now the government is calling themselves the people. Like, go get a ticket and it says "We the People." I want to know who the people are.
All of this happened, I believe, in 1933 because the Act to Abrogate
Yes.
the Gold Clause. Look that up, y'all. 1933, they took all the gold away. 1933, they enacted. After they took the gold away, they did the Trading with the Enemy Act.
Yep. Yeah. So all of those things we got to deal with. And it started before that too, because you have the act, you have the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, you got the Banking Act of 1871. Like, it's a whole bunch of stuff that happened after slavery that they started to move things in a certain direction. And so what happens is you have people who just don't know how America is supposed to work and what was intended. And in fact, my mind is changing I used to say, because I fell for the rhetoric of America wasn't a Christian nation. But the truth of the matter is, that is the only reason why America is a country today, is because people left England for religious freedom. They were Christians who didn't want to be. Listen, no.
I heard an alternative theory to that.
Okay, go ahead.
They didn't come here for religious persecution. Now I can't remember it, but it
No,
was
I didn't say
something else.
it was religious persecution, but it was several things. But one of the things specifically was they didn't want to be under the King of England. They didn't
Right,
want
they
to be
wanted
subject.
escape feudalism.
Yes, they wanted to escape
Right.
feudalism under the kingdom, right? And so, because most of them were Protestants, right? Majority of them, outside of like Maryland, which was a Catholic community. But what I found out was, and in fact, you can check out Charlie Kirk. Some might like him, might not. But he was like, if you look at the original state constitutions, those state constitutions had Jesus in them. You got to remember, the United States of America is not one big country. It is a conglomerate of 50 sovereign state countries. It's supposed to be, right? It's a grouping of them. So it's supposed to be multiple small sovereign country states that are in union together.
Right, that's why they call it the several states. And not
Yes.
all of them wanted to be a part of the union in the first place.
That's correct. That's why we have the Civil War stuff going on and everything else, because they wanted their own, like the Confederacy, whether you believe it or not, was not part of the United States. They had their own thing.
we can't talk about stuff like that because suggesting that suggests that the Civil War was only about race
Yeah, no,
and
the
slavery.
Confederacy was its own thing. They had their own union, and the northern states had their own union because there were still new states being added at that time, y'all. Like, you got to understand when some of these states came in, like the Louisiana Purchase and all that kind of stuff, and how much land was involved in the Louisiana Purchase of Oklahoma and Nebraska and Kansas and all of those states that belonged to that Louisiana territory, right? Nobody understands why all the way up the Mississippi River, even over into Missouri, when I got to Missouri, and there's all these French names like the Ruby Doo River. I was like, why? That's all part of that Louisiana Purchase. It was part of the Louisiana Territory. It was French at the time, right? Well, some of them joined the Confederacy in the South. The North had its own union. And what they wanted to do was have one big country. And again, we're getting off topic with that, but this is the type of stuff that we got to research and study and find out, because we have people who are literally, they hate America for several reasons, of course, but they don't even know how it's supposed to work. And they look at what's happening today and they're, oh yeah, this should happen. I mean, I legitimately have people who's like, death to America. America is over. The American experiment has run its course, blah, blah, blah. Listen, the reason why those people don't like Donald Trump is because he is a nationalist. Donald Trump does not believe in globalism. He doesn't believe in it. Neither does Israel. Neither does Russia. So what they try to do is they put them all together and lump them up and say, oh, look, he's allies with our enemy, or he's friends with this. No, these countries, these nations do not want to be a part of the global agenda. They want to maintain their sovereignty. And so people have, unfortunately, created these bashing terms like white nationalist to make that seem like someone who is white, who likes their country and doesn't want it to be globalized, is automatically a fascist or is automatically someone who's racist because they don't like their country having open borders and so on and so forth. But y'all need to go and watch the World Economic Forum. I'm
And
trying.
just like this gentleman, I don't know what his name is, but I found him on TikTok, a gentleman from the African continent. He said, you mistake
Yeah.
racism for misbehavior.
Yeah.
It is not the same thing.
No,
So
it's not. Everything is not racism. We gotta stop and we gotta think. We have to get out of our emotional baggage and trauma. Listen, we've had a lot of stuff happen in the last few years, especially due to the pandemic and all that kind of stuff like that. We had a lot of death here, lost many family members and friends for whatever reason, whether it was COVID itself, whether it was the thing that they gave everybody to try to stop it from spreading, whatever. We had a lot of things happen. So people are traumatized. And if you don't study psychology, you don't understand that there are sciences based on manipulating people after, or they use trauma to manipulate people. They cause traumas, which gets you out of your rhythm and frequency or whatever you want to call it, and now they can manipulate you. And people don't believe that that's a thing. Show me your proof. Go look it up. Just like you had to do when you was in 5th grade, in 4th and 3rd grade, 8th grade. Use this opportunity to go do a book report and go find this information. The problem is it creates cognitive dissonance. The world that I live in is not the world that I believe I live in. Therefore, I got to attack it because I don't know about it, or number 2 is because I don't want to believe this is what's happening.
And I also think that probably on the next episode, all of those definitions and words and terms that you mentioned, we can go over them and we can dissect them and say, all right, this is how much it's changed over time. Because I have a dictionary that's probably about this thick, and it's from like like 1913 or something like that. I think it's like a reprint. So I'm gonna go look back at those words and to see how they match today, because over time, many things change. Like, people call somebody a fascist. I don't even think they know what the true definition of fascism is. Same thing with, what's the other word I'm looking for? Like even fascism, what's the other one? Jeez. communism, not
Yeah,
communism.
socialism, all of that. Even
Listen,
let's
because socialism and fascism are very closely
close.
related.
Yeah. Yep. No, because even that, like, we got to talk about the issue of what is democracy and what is a republic, because America is not a democracy. America is not a democracy, y'all. They keep saying the word because it's called predictive programming. They say it enough times, you believe it, but it's not.
Right, and I think, and what happens is just because somebody else is telling you something, and it's coming from the mainstream line, they're
Right.
gonna believe it. But if it's somebody like me, or if it's, I like to call it alternative media, like some of the smaller places, and I think a lot of these podcasts are a threat to the larger media.
Yes,
So
sir.
they think that everybody should shut up. I don't think that. Even if you're wrong, it is your right to be loud and wrong. But
And-
just don't be surprised if somebody, I mean, people can correct you.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in just say, oh, everybody should shut up. And then
Nah.
automatically everybody's a danger or a menace to society. But
Man,
that's not true at all.
no, it's not. I actually had somebody accuse me of that and was like, "Oh, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. You putting out this kind of information." I'm thinking, how is it dangerous? Who is being harmed by this? Because it's not the narrative that's being promoted by the status quo. Well, listen, if you look over our history, y'all, and you actually do an honest and transparent research into the history, most of the time there were conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. It's just that we have a track record of those things coming out anywhere from like 25 to 70 years or so after the fact, especially when you have CIA documents that get released every 70 years and stuff like that. Like, people talk about the mind control stuff. Well, you can go look up MK Ultra. This is not something that was made up. It was literally a CIA and whatever other three-letter agency program that was about mind control through television and radio waves. This is not a conspiracy theory. Those documents have been released. It's proven to be true.
Right.
But
There's a book called Silent Weapons for Secret Wars.
Period. Silent
In this
weapons.
book.
Yeah.
Silent Weapons for Secret Wars. And inside of this book, it contains information that was released over time by CIA. Supposedly, the gentleman that published the book found these documents inside of a photocopy machine. Well, at the time, it was called a photocopy machine. Now we just call it a copy machine.
Right.
But at the time, he found it in a photocopy machine, and there were several documents detailing how they wanted to pretty much mold the minds of society and the things that they were doing in the CIA.
That's correct.
So it's called Silent Weapons for Secret Wars.
Go do the research yourself. Don't ask me, because people say that, oh, show your proof. Go find it. If you really want to know the truth, there's so much stuff out there that you can go and find. But you have to want to know. And if you don't want to know, you just want to have your head in the sand, that's okay. But now that you don't have the right to get angry and attack people who are sharing information that you don't understand or don't agree with. That's not how that works. And unfortunately, I mean, I literally have people get on my post like, oh, you're dangerous. You're a danger to society by spreading this type of misinformation. And I'm like, prove it. Prove it's misinformation. Most of the time they can't. They're just towing the line of the narrative because, again, to me, mainstream media is untrustworthy. Sorry, it's just not trustworthy anymore.
Well, here's the problem with fact-checking misinformation.
Right.
Typically, the people who are giving the information, they get fact-checkers who are under their guise.
Right.
So it's not a neutral party. It's somebody that's literally
Inside.
literally agrees with all of the ideologies and the ideals and their ideas.
Right.
So fact-checking isn't partial. It isn't fair. It's one side saying, we're going to fact-check because this is what we believe. If they say anything within these confines, and that means we fact-checked it and it was wrong. So you have to understand that's how fact-checking works. And a certain group of people created fact-checking,
Yep.
but we're not going to say.
Yeah, because again, I need y'all to understand something. This is not like people talk about, oh, Trump, 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 and other people talk about Harris, Harris, Harris. First of all, it is true that the Democratic Party is the party of slavery. There was no switch. It didn't happen. That was fake news. Go do the actual research. They keep talking about Dixiecrats and blah, blah, blah. It was one person. What was it? Strom Thurmond or whatever his name was. One guy switched. Not a whole bunch. One guy. He just said he felt more at home in the Republican Party. That turned into a whole narrative of the party swapping sides, and it was a lie. It didn't happen. That I'm telling you, this is psyop stuff. And number two, like, this is a thing, y'all. Y'all didn't even. I bet y'all didn't even know. I forgot the name of it now, man. But Obama. It was called. What was the name of the thing? President Obama actually struck down. He got it taken out of place. A law that made it illegal for the government to propagandize its people. There was actually a law in place that said the United States government cannot do use propaganda against its own people. It was actually a law. You know who undid the law? President Obama. And then they made it legal for them to use psychological operations on the people. And Congress passed it. So listen, you guys need to understand this stuff. Yeah, it's going to hurt your head and you're going to be wrestling with stuff and say it can't be true. Yeah, that's why we call this cognitive dissonance, because that's what we have to deal with. We got to face it. And we have to, whether you believe it or not, we went through this. Because I voted for Obama the first time. I was old enough and I voted for him. I'm not as young as people think I am.
Yeah, we had this conversation earlier with our good friend Avon.
Yeah, we had this conversation with Avon. I thought he was going to join us too, man. I sent him a link.
And he said we all fell for it. You see a smooth brother coming in, player. Oh, we're going to vote for this guy because he's black. And we fell for it. We fell for the okie doke. This is the same guy that was allowing the government to use your devices to spy on you.
Period.
So whatever camera, whatever phone you had, microphones, cell phones, whatever it was that you had that was digital that he could use to spy on you, he used it. I think it was legislation that was passed too, right?
Yeah, because that's the NDAA, right? The Defense Act or whatever it was. And what it turned out to be was American spying, like spying on people.
And we're not picking on anybody. These are facts.
Facts.
These are facts. Like if you want to do fact checking, go and look. Go and look at the legislation. Listen, I know it's a lot of information. Like when I read some of this stuff, I'm like, man, it's a lot of pages.
Yeah.
But now they have AI. AI can kind of break it down for you.
Yeah, give you a summary of it, whatever.
It'll give you a summary. That's if it's not like woke AI. But really, you should be yearning to learn these things. I don't want to burst your bubble, but typically the Democratic Party has been telling black folks to kiss their behind since about the 60s.
Yeah, he said, because Dwayne Taylor, my friend, he's a really good Democrat. I love him. He's a good brother, right? He's telling me, he's like, oh, no, Wayne, can you prove everything you're saying? Show your sources. That's the stuff I'm talking about. I'm saying go look it up.
What's his name, Dwayne?
Yeah, Dwayne Taylor. What I'm saying, Dwayne.
What's up, Dwayne?
Is look.
Go read the legislation.
Go look up the legislation. I'm not telling you something that I have. People don't understand. Me and my brother, for the last probably 10 years or so, have been knee deep or neck deep, I'll put it to you that way, in law, in legislation, in financial legislation, and all that kind of stuff like that. We're not talking about stuff that we haven't read. All of this stuff can be found in books. You have to be willing to go look at the books. That's how we did it. We went searching for the stuff. Everybody wants you to hand you your sources, right? Oh, show me your sources. But then I give you the sources, and then you still disbelieve what I'm saying or what the sources say. That's called cognitive dissonance because it challenges your current worldview and perspective. What I'm telling you is you can do just like you did in 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th grade is go to a public library, as long as the library didn't get rid of all of the books, and you can actually go get the congressional records. They have this stuff in books. The congressional record of legislation passed. You can go research it and read them for yourself. That's what we did. So I get that people say, he said, no. Yeah. He says he's independent. I'm sorry. He says he's independent. He just doesn't like Trump. Listen, ain't nobody ever heard me say you have to like Trump. I don't know why people automatically assume because I'm against the Democratic Party that I'm automatically for Trump.
Right,
I'm not.
Let's do this. to make it fair, I'm going to say something, or we could say a few things that Trump did that we didn't like. So that way people don't think we're just picking on the Democrats. Okay? Even with the January 6th situation, right?
Yeah.
I think that he should have just invoked the
National Guard?
The National Guard. He should have just did it. That was
Yeah.
my only issue.
'Cause he
That's
went-
what he should have done.
But technically,
And secondly,
yeah, I agree though. Who's that?
and secondly,
Oh,
That's me. My bad.
oh, okay.
oh, and secondly, the second issue was the whole COVID debacle.
Yeah.
All right? He shouldn't allow those shutdowns.
No.
Those are the two issues that I had with him. But
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. And it's not like what people they think just because you have an issue with the Democrats that you automatically love Trump. Like I don't know any of these people. I don't love any of these people.
Nah.
I mean, I
love
everybody,
them.
but
I love them.
everybody, like as a human, but like I don't know these people. But just based on the data, that's all I look at. Data. It doesn't matter how I feel.
That's correct. Because that's what Dwayne says. Are you kidding me? Oh, show me your sources and whatever. He says, because I can find sources that disprove what you say. How do you disprove a congressional record? You can't disprove a congressional record. I'm saying what is actually
congressional
legislation.
It was a congressional hearing, and they transcribed the hearing.
Period. And the findings of those hearings. You can't disprove that. You can get a news article that says some kind of trumped up something about it, but you can't disprove what was actually done. I'm not talking about news articles as sources. I'm saying go to your public library and look up the congressional record concerning the NDAA, which is the National Defense whatever Act, right? That Obama passed. Go look up, oh man, what was the name of that thing, man? Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can pull this sucker up real quick. It was what was the name of the law that let's say Obama repealed about what was that for? What was it called? It wasn't the something. It was. Oh,
You might
man.
not be able to find it because they suppress information. Let me see. You said repealed or vetoed?
See, so that's this is what you know, how you know fact checking is crazy, right? So let me show you how they do this. This is what happens. The first thing that comes up, Obama did not sign a law allowing propaganda in the U.S. That is a fault. That's what you call misinformation, because he didn't pass a law. What he did was he repealed a law that was already there. It was a law that was already in place, and he got the law removed. So no, he didn't pass a law. He got it removed. That's misinformation and disinformation. He got the law passed out or removed. So what was the name of it? It's called the Smith-Mundt. Smith-Mundt. Smithmundt. It was a law that was in place, and he got it removed. It was the Smith-Mundt Act, and Obama got it undone. It was actually, it was called the U.S. Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948, popularly called the Smith-Mundt Act. This is on Wikipedia. It's in there. Obama had that repealed. In that act, it specifically states that the United States government cannot use psychological operations on its citizens. It was in there saying that it cannot do certain things. Obama had it repealed. And then proceeded to have, See,
Where'd you
that's what I'm
find
saying. You gotta know where to look. You just gotta know what to type in the thing. It's called the Smith-Mundt Act, though, on Wikipedia.
okay.
Smith, M-U-N-D-T. In any case,
okay.
and then they started to see. This is what happens. People don't understand that the executive orders are not law.
No, they're suggestions. That's what they are.
They're not law.
Executive orders. It would just be the equivalent of the executive at your job telling everybody, "Hey, look." Well, actually, no, I can't use that because you'll get fired if you don't do that. But executive orders are literally suggestions. They are not law. And there's a difference between law and a statute/code.
Right. Yeah, it was. Keep going.
Communications Act was a control factor too.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Marlon knows some
Brother
stuff.
Paul.
Yeah, I was trying to see if Marlon wanted to come on. He said he'll come on the next episode.
Yeah, come on the next episode. Yeah, but
So,
I think I think people don't realize. Well, even when I tried to search it, I couldn't find it.
yeah.
And there's a key thing that I was trying to search the other day when back in late September, the appeal hearing for Trump appeared on C-SPAN, and
Okay.
basically the appeal judges were saying, "Why is this even here? This should have never been heard in court."
Correct.
Because you had the judge essentially said, I forget what the charges were, but the judges essentially said that these were two.
It was private contract.
The two parties were competent enough to execute this agreement and this contract. The public wasn't injured. Nobody was personally injured.
Nope.
But I couldn't find it anywhere.
Nope. But it was only
And-
on C-SPAN.
Right, and this stuff is public record. You could look it up. I couldn't find it.
You got to go to the Library of Congress. Probably that's why though, because they hide the stuff in plain sight where they know people don't know where to look.
And they try to make it seem like he's a felon because they were trying to. That was a criminal claim. that they
That's
tried to
right.
bring against-
They
tried to
brought
bring
a criminal claim.
when it was civil. They said these were two competent. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember
Right.
the exact word, but I believe the judge said it was two competent parties that engaged in a contract. No one took advantage of anyone. Nobody was hurt.
See, Dwayne, this is the type of stuff that this is why I don't like. So
Mother Russia.
So who is Russia propagandizing for? Because if you actually do the research, you'll find out that a certain party, not the one being accused, was in fact colluding with Russian people. So who are they propagandizing for? And who are they propagandizing against? Because again, we talk about receipts, and I'm telling you, everybody wants you to show all your sources and receipts, but I'm telling you, that's a lie too. That's something to get everybody to say, oh, Russia's involved in it, so that way you don't take anything seriously. It's a game. They're playing games with you because they don't want you to listen to anything outside of their narrative. So they throw in all these things to throw you off the scent so you don't continue to research. I'm sorry, but I did not drink the Kool-Aid.
I did see a funny post. He said, "I'm sorry, I'm not voting for a person who lets witches endorse them." And then somebody commented and said, "Who's endorsed by a witch?"
Right. Like who's endorsed, who's being endorsed. Like there's so much stuff out here that's crazy that is really misinformation, but people, because they're emotionally charged and they hate Trump, that they just will believe anything against him. Again, I've never said to anyone, you got to vote for Trump, and Trump is just God's chosen, blessed man. And I don't live in that camp. I don't live there. I don't believe in that. I personally, first of all, historically speaking, I can prove that the Democrat Party has never done anything but damage black families, period. It's been that way since forever. I can prove it through legislation,
And then
through historical records.
And then you have people that bring up the Civil Rights Act, right?
Right.
If you really read the Civil Rights Act, it has nothing to do with anybody's skin color, with anybody's
Nope.
hue, pigmentation, or race. It benefits everybody,
That's correct.
but it was not specifically designed for, and I believe it was Republican legislation that tried to push it to make it specifically for black people.
Yes.
But the Democrats said,
Turned it
no,
down.
you're not doing that.
That's
Who was the
correct.
president? Was it Lyndon B. Johnson or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was
I went to
the
public
one
school,
before
y'all.
that.
Please forgive
Yeah,
me, but
it was the one before that. But it was a Republican president, and then the Democrats took over. And then so people say, well, they switched parties. And I'm promising you, they did not switch parties. That was a made up and fabricated story about the Dixiecrats and how they infiltrated it, and then they switched sides. It never happened. There are well documented receipts that it never happened. Never happened. One person changed parties. And because that one person was connected to certain things like KKK and whatever else, the storyline goes up. KKK infiltrated the Republican Party. But the reality is the KKK was founded by Democrats, not Republicans. 1968, what? They did not switch. What I'm telling you, one person did. Go research it. Go look.
Not to cut you off. Look.
Yeah.
I'm looking right now. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, a landmark piece of federal legislation in the United States, does not specifically mention black people or any other racial or ethnic groups by name in terms of granting rights. Instead, it addresses discrimination more broadly. The act is designed to prohibit discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, as we all know.
He said, not true. Many switched. They did not. It was one. Strom Thurmond. Go look it up. One person. It was it. One person. Go research it. For real. I'm not talking about news articles. I'm talking about what. Go look who changed platforms in the congressional record. Go research that. What senators moved from Republican to Democrat? What congressmen and women move from Republican to Democrat or vice versa? Go look it up. You will not find it, but one person changed their party. I'm not talking about news articles. I'm talking about the congressional records and the actual records in the Library of Congress. That's what you got to look for. If you're not looking there, I don't care what else anything else says. I don't care what no news article said. They've been doing propaganda against us for ages.
And
go look it up. One person switched.
It's a lot of information, though. It's a lot of information, but to get the actual truth, to get all of the facts, you got to read the congressional record. But now you have AI. So now you have AI to help you. You can run it through AI. You can say, hey, look, give me a synopsis or a summary of this document. And then you can get even more specific. Like you can ask questions. Like even this, it gave me information. It says the primary focus of the act, especially Title II and Title VII, is to ensure equal access to public accommodations, employment, and education, and to prevent discrimination in these areas. So they added race in it, but race wasn't the goal necessarily.
No, and in fact, so what happened was initially it was the Republican Party who drew up the bill. The Democrats blocked it. Then they added stuff to the bill, and that's when it got passed. They added things that they wanted, and they removed things that the Republican wanted the next term because they had power in the House and in the executive office. So they had 2/3 of government. They had 2/3 of the government, so they were able to get things passed where they blocked the Republicans from doing it the previous term. That's actually what happened. Go look up the actual record. Until you can come to me and tell me that you have read the congressional acts, I don't want to hear what you got to say. I'm telling you what the government has on record. I'm not telling you what a news article said. I'm not telling you what a documentary said. I'm telling you what Congress wrote down and is etched pretty much in stone forever, as long as there's a Library of Congress. So if you can go to the Library of Congress and find a document that disputes those things, then we can have a conversation. Until then, I don't want to hear nothing else because all of your sources are just parroting someone's idea or parroting or regurgitating someone else's feelings on a subject and topic. It's not the actual facts. I'm talking about facts, what the government has on record. That's what you need to research. And until you start going to the Library of Congress and buying books that are several $100s to read what's in them, I don't want to hear nothing about I got proof. Because news articles are not proof. Magazine articles are not proof. That's just someone's interpretation of what's happening. That's how things have to be dealt with, though, guys. Like, that's the reality. Everybody keeps talking about proof. Go look at Kamala's voting record. You want proof? Go look it up. You can see what she voted on, what she didn't vote on. The same thing for any other person who has ever run for president. You can see their history, what they voted for and what they voted against. Go look that up. It's in the congressional record. It's in the Senate and the House committee and all that stuff. Those things are very well documented and have been for eons.
I was talking to a colleague of mine, and they told me that they didn't like the fact that, well, I mean, they just detest Trump anyway. But they told me specifically one of the main reasons why is because he blocked the, what was it, like the Border Patrol bill, something related to that.
Yeah, some kind of bill.
But he didn't. First of all, he didn't block it. He just voted no because of the fact that they added other things in there. What
Correct.
they tried to do is they tried to add on aid to Ukraine at the time. So he said, no, why am I doing all that? We're just trying to secure the border. That's it. I'm like, but this person didn't read. They just went by what CNN, who hates Trump, MSNBC, who hates Trump. You gotta read. He blocked it because they were trying to send
more money
dollars to other, I think, to Ukraine and Iran or something crazy like that. Yeah. So in order to have a full understanding of what you're up against, you got to read this stuff. And it's a lot of information. But you can't just go around being angry, hating people, because it makes you look kind of crazy if you don't have the data to back it up.
Period. Because, again, news articles is not proof. Magazine articles and clippings are not proof. That's not data. That's someone's interpretation of what they're experiencing, and they're writing based on a narrative, what they're told to write on, based on. They're not writing based on truth, just what facts are. If you want the facts, go watch C-SPAN. Y'all don't watch those hearings in the Senate when they grilling the FBI directors and they grilling the CIA directors and they grilling these guys on all this misappropriation of funds and mishandling of this and how they treating American citizens. That's the facts. These are the actual hearings that are happening. Not a news article. This is them sitting in a hearing, grilling these directors of these three-letter agencies, talking about how they are misusing their powers against the American people. It's not a conspiracy theory. No theory to it. It's a conspiracy, against us. Not a theory. I can see if you want to talk about, people talking about aliens and that type of stuff and getting into other things that might seem a little bit more far-fetched and stretched out, whatever the case may be. But the reality is that what we have right now is a war against sovereignty and tyranny. That's actually what we're facing with these elections. And the reality is that the left is very much for the tyranny side, even though they try to put that on Trump. And y'all haven't watched, they got videos. You see those videos of Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama talking about how to actually do this? Dave, you saw those videos? Nancy Pelosi, she said they called it a reverse something where they put it on the other person and make it like they're going to do it when they're actually the ones doing it. So that way nobody suspects them. So what they do is they tarnish their enemy or the opponent first, so that way everybody turns on them. Everybody turns against them because they say, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And then they reverse it back. So by the time it all comes through and whatever else, nobody's even paying attention because they already got their martyr. And she's literally talking about it at a conference. Her and Barack Obama, the same thing. But because people don't want to know, or they have this cognitive dissonance issue, they have their head in the sand. They don't want to know that this is what's happening. They don't want to believe that the world is actually the way it is. And that's not helping anybody.
Yeah, and by the way, Barack Obama, the one that we all voted for, he had some not nice things to say about black men. See, here's my issue, right? My main issue with the Democratic Party is this. And listen, I'll preface this by saying this. I think me and Wayne have agreed that some of the Democratic Party, some of the Democratic policies aren't terrible.
No.
Right? Not all of them are bad.
No.
But to think that the Democratic Party actually cares about black people, you have to be very naive.
Correct.
So Barack Obama saying what he said about black men, I don't even know. I didn't even watch it because I just didn't want to be bothered.
Yeah,
But
he said, what did he say? He was like, yeah, black men. He said it's something like basically he blamed the issue on black men, saying like basically you should be ashamed of yourself for not voting for her, and he called them basically misogynists because they were afraid to vote for a woman and all that kind of stuff like that.
all right, well, black folks, the Democratic Party thinks you're stupid.
Period.
They think you're stupid. They think you don't have any kind of intelligence to make your own informed decisions. That's why they keep doing this. That's why they have these concerts at the DNC, is it? Where you got women up there shaking their behind and stuff. They got to do all of that to try and get the black folks. And they think that all black people are a monolith. They think that they're homogenous. No, black people aren't all the same.
Nope.
I don't subscribe to that. Like, why do I need to see Megan Thee Stallion shaking her behind on stage? They think us as black folks are stupid. Keep that in mind. If you pay attention, if you watch, well, if you go back and look at many of the speeches that Malcolm X gave, he's been talking about this since the 60s.
Yo, but
He's
nobody.
been talking about nobody's been paying attention. He's been talking about the Democrats since the 60s and how the Democrats have hoodwinked black people into thinking that everything is white supremacy and everything is racist.
Yep.
And black people are falling for it.
Still, 60, 70 years later. That's why they killed him. That's the only. That's why they killed him, because he was telling people no. And let's be very, very clear, because we had a conversation a little bit earlier, like I said, yourself, myself, Avon, and we were talking about the Democratic Party and people believing that the Democratic Party is going to do something for black people. Well, I'm going to be very honest and transparent. The Republican Party is not going to do anything for black people either. So that's the truth, right? I'm not here to try to be unfair about this or to be to seem like we're just picking on one side. Personally speaking, I have a personal issue with the left and Democratic policies, many of their policies, I'll put it that way. I am less of a fan of the Democrat Party than I am a fan of the Republican Party, right? So it's not necessarily, and again, I'm telling you as someone who was a registered Democrat, who voted Democrat in several elections, right? Like I graduated high school in the year 2000. I was there for Y2K and all that stuff. So I've been around for a while, all right? I was able to vote for quite some time. So I was a registered Democrat because that's what we were brought up in. That's what we were kind of taught. That's the black culture and narrative that we carry, especially when you're growing up. You got people in the Baptist tradition and the Pentecostal tradition and things like that. That's just what we did because that's what everybody did, right? And so I followed the line and I preached the same things. And then it was by God's grace, I had an opportunity to move to Republican country. And it blew my mind because everything that I thought about them, I was actually proven wrong. Everything that I was told about them and about how they think and how they act and how they feel, I was proven very wrong. Extremely wrong. In an area where everybody said, oh, that's going to be racist and there's sundown towns over here. I met some of the most loving people in this. Now, don't get me wrong. There were sundown towns not too far from where I lived. And I did not venture into those towns. That doesn't mean that everybody there is a Republican, number one, because the Republicans that I did know, the gun-toting, God-loving folks, they took me and my wife and my family in like we was family. And I was still a good old-fashioned Democrat. And they took us in like we was family and they loved us. And they showed me something very different. So I don't want to hear all of that, oh, you're just this. Nah, I was a good Democrat. I was a real good Democrat. And I've learned to believe, and I'm telling you from my experience, that if you look at the nature and the condition of our communities, what has changed? And at some point, we have to be able to say something has to change. Otherwise, we're living out the definition of insanity. We're doing the same exact thing over and over and over, expecting different results. Here's what I do believe. I do believe that I know that the Republican Party is not going to do anything for black people. However, with the conditions that the Republican Party tries to promote and the things that they put in place, black people can thrive and flourish within, because they are not trying to placate to anyone. They're just trying to get their bag. They're just trying to make their money. They're trying to remove all of the hindrances from them being wealthy. So anybody who thinks like this can actually jump in on it and participate. But this whole thing where we got to take from one guy to give to the other guy, and you know, like literally people being angry at billionaires because they shouldn't be that rich. Like, just because you're a lazy bum don't mean nothing. Get up and do something. And that's what I learned, that I shouldn't be expecting the government to take care of me and do everything for me. Now, if I need something, is it helpful to have some things in place? Yes, absolutely. I would prefer you just get out of my way and let me do what I do without hindrance. That's what I'm asking for. That's what I'm looking for. So I don't want all this oversight. I want a small government. That's me. I've learned. I want a very small government that doesn't have its hands in everything. Versus this big government where they have all of this bloated stuff and everybody's got a position and everybody's taking advantage of the money that's coming into the community, and the community is not getting any better for it. And I live here on Long Island, and there's a lot of communities here that have been run by Democrat people for a long time, and those communities have never changed. But we automatically look at the other side, and because these people are white and they're evangelicals, and we say they're racist, we automatically call them racist because they're not voting Democrat. I don't like that. You all right, Dave? You choking? Yeah. So, and again, we decided to do this because we call it cognitive dissonance, because this is the reality, y'all. Like, America is in a stupor. And I want to be very clear. I'm going to say it again. I'm not telling nobody they got to vote for Trump. You know how many other people are on the ballot and are going to be on the ballot for president? You have a lot of choices. But you have people like Bill Maher who says, I'm going to vote for who's going to win. So they only want to be on the winning party or the winning ticket. They're not actually trying to have change happen. I don't know what else you expect. And again, if you are a Democrat, I love you. I promise you, I don't hate you. I don't hate Kamala Harris. What I can't see and understand is why you hate Donald Trump so much. Like, genuinely, go ask any Republican if they hate Kamala Harris like that. No, they just think that she's crazy and that she's not going to do a good job. And again, as someone who's a very conservative man, I'm extremely conservative because I have children, I have a wife, I'm a protector. I do my best to be a provider and a caregiver for my family. There are certain agendas that one party wants to push that I don't agree with. I don't want my children learning certain things in school. So when they keep talking about getting rid of the Board of Education, I don't think that's a bad idea. It's your job as a parent to educate your child.
And you have to understand what the genesis of the Board of Education was.
Period.
It was, I believe, one of the Rockefellers hired someone to specifically create the Board of Education to create employees in the industrial area. Employees for them in the industrial
complex
of America. So that way, that's why, well, at the time, they're starting to change things a little bit, but at the time, schools, hospitals, insane asylums, they all looked the same. It was like a dark, dreary place. Oh, warehouses too. So that's why you have the school bell. Like, now, don't get what we're saying wrong. We're not saying, oh, don't go to school. But what we're saying is you have to pay attention to the history and the origin, because the origin never changes throughout time. It just sort of gets hidden. So you gotta look at the origin. Like, there's a book by the name of a gentleman called John Taylor Gatto called Dumbing Us Down, talking about the school system. He's a former teacher, and he was talking about the compulsory education system and how it's training children to be employees and not to think freely for themselves. So I don't think it's so bad, because first of all, some of these local boards of education are just bad in the first place.
Anyway, man,
they need
it's
to
a
have
money
regular,
pit, bro.
well, what people have to understand is in government and any civic kind of organization or assembly, it was regular, ordinary people. It was your local pastor, your local plumber. These were the people that were in those positions,
Right.
and they could appropriately represent
The people.
the interests of the people.
That's correct.
Now you have people who are so far separated,
Professional, whatever, professional politicians,
Right.
attorneys, and everybody who makes things difficult to understand.
right? So now, sometimes now the tables have turned a little bit. Like Donald Trump, he's not really a politician, so he's one of those guys that kind of brings
Ruffles
in the
feathers.
Yeah, like he ruffles feathers because he's not subscribing to their globalist agenda. Like, listen, I know it may seem far-fetched, but I need you all to do some more reading. You gotta constantly read. You can't just read only the mainstream media because there are other things that are happening, and you gotta pay attention. Now, I think that's part of the reason why they want to get rid of TikTok, because I don't think it's just only because China owns TikTok. It's because TikTok allows any and everything on it, except for like violence. They don't.
Yeah, certain things. Yeah.
But what's the difference between using TikTok and wasn't there a Chinese spy kind of thing going on with Facebook anyway?
Yeah, it was
Something
at
like
one
that.
time.
Right. So what's the difference? Like your own government is spying on you. And just as long as you're not doing anything nefarious or anything harmful to the public or anything harmful to anybody, you should be fine. Look, social media is just for entertainment. You can encourage people, you can laugh, you can joke. I wouldn't take it that seriously, but I just need people to pay attention. That's all. Pay attention. Look at the history and origin.
That's right.
I think
That's why people don't like X right now either.
When you look, what'd you say?
I said I think that's why people don't like X right now either.
Right. They don't like X because it's so funny, right? Freedom of speech in America is only free unless you agree with it.
Right.
It's not free if you don't agree with it.
That's crazy to me.
If you don't agree with it, you aren't free to say what you want, and then you get the idiots to talk about, oh, you can't yell bomb in a movie theater. I've been going to the movie theaters my entire life, other kind of theaters. Never once heard anybody yell bomb or fire at these theaters.
No, but they would say,
ridiculous.
well, they can't do it because it's a law. They'd get arrested or whatever the case may be.
Right, I think it's ridiculous. Like, nobody does that. Who does that? So I think that you need to keep people need to keep these things in mind.
Yeah, I mean, you do got people that go in there and shoot them up and stuff like that. It's happened before,
Right,
but
it's happened before.
but the reality
That's
is that like that's not necessarily you espousing your free opinion. That's not you espousing your free opinion, your free thoughts, your ideas, whatever else. Those are never supposed to be hindered or infringed on. It's never supposed to be limited, even if people disagree. It's just not supposed to happen that way. And I don't think people understand the real basis of America and American politics. They just don't get it. And the ones who do get it, I wish they would just come out and say that they hate America. Like, just say it. I hate America. I hate the way the system is. I don't like it the way it is. And that's cool. Like, just say it. Be honest with yourself and everybody else around you so we know how to deal with you. Don't act like you love the country and want to do away with it. And that's one of the things I just don't like about a specific party. Yeah, it's just because they say, they want to do this and that, the third, but America is very... listen, the history is terrible. It's not great. It's not. But if you look at any individual, any human being, any person who has ever made a mistake and made flaws, our beginning is not always great either. It's just the case. It's just what it is. And we have the ability to make it what it should be. Because the other side, I'm telling y'all let this globalism thing go forward. And it just shows that y'all have never watched a WEF, a World Economic Forum, or a WHO video, or NIH, or any of these other These people legitimately want to control everything you do. Everything you do. Not just spy on you. They want to control where you go and what you can say and cannot say. Otherwise, you will be arrested. And some folks think, oh, well, good, because if you support Trump, you should be arrested. Oh, okay, well, guess what? The moment you decide to go against something that they don't like, it'll be you next. And that's what people don't ever remember. It's never just this one group of people. It goes down to everybody. And if you're not part of their machine and their system, you're going to get eaten alive.
And what we need to stop doing is vote shaming. You should be able to vote for whoever you want to vote for based on your research. I don't recommend that you do it based on how you feel, because if you do things based on how you feel isn't necessarily real.
Nope.
You've made something up in your mind that allows you to believe. Right. So I think that we should just completely stop vote shaming. If you want to vote for Kamala, vote for Kamala.
Go for it.
Just make sure that you know her policies. If you want to vote for Trump, vote for Trump. Make sure you read his policies. Listen, I encourage staunch Republicans, read the Democratic policies, just so that way you have an understanding. Staunch Democrats, read the, I said that already.
Yeah,
staunch,
no. You said the Republicans.
Staunch Democrats.
Read the
Staunch
Republicans.
Democrats. Read the Republican policies. That way you'll have an understanding of what they're doing rather than just shooing it away and say, oh, I don't want to do that. Because most people don't read. You'd be surprised how many people you ask about policy and they don't know. They just have no clue. They just want to be part of a family. And I get it. What it does is that politics is doing its job. I've said this before. It's doing its job. It's causing division within two larger groups, the Democrats and the Republicans. And there's a third party, by the way. But
there's several parties, actually.
Well, there's several parties, but if we're talking about sort of on the major side, we'll talk about that on the next episode. But they're causing division between the two largest parties, and they're bumping heads, and it's working. So I advise everybody, vote for whoever you want to vote for, but just make sure you're making an informed decision. Don't do it based on how you feel.
Don't do emotional.
We did that with Obama, and most of you were mad because he didn't do anything for black people.
Mm-hmm. Because guess what? Kamala's not going to do it, and neither is Trump. They're not going to do it. Now, here's all what Trump is going to do is make America not globalist. He had pulled us out of the UN. As soon as Joe Biden got in, they got us right back into it. Trump was like, I don't want it. Why are we doing all of this? We don't need to be the police for everybody. We need to take care of home first. So this is literally what we're up against. We're talking about globalism versus nationalism. And I hate that people have made nationalism to be a sin. It's crazy to me how someone who loves their country is now public enemy number one, because you like America the way it is and don't want to be a global part of a global conglomerate where you have people who genuinely don't care about you, who really just want you gone, who are hell-bent by their own confessions on depopulating the earth. I don't understand how people can say this stuff is still conspiracy theory. I just don't get it. How can you say it's a theory when there are people who are saying it out of their own mouths? Go watch the WEF, go watch the WHO, and listen to what they're saying. Don't take my word for it. It's in their documents. I don't know when we're going to do this again, but we're going to do it again because it's election season and we got to talk to y'all about some of this stuff. There's a whole lot more to go into.
We'll probably do it next week. We can probably do it next week.
Yeah, how many weeks we got? 3?
Yeah, we got 3 weeks. So maybe we'll do three episodes. Well, we might have to do more because I think there's going to be some sort of controversy that comes up.
Oh, yeah, there's going to be
I can almost guarantee.
There's going to be something after the election happens. It's going to be wild.
And what we're going to do is we're going to post these episodes up on YouTube. So if you want to go back and watch them, please support us. We're starting it's called cognitive dissonance. It's a play on those words to encourage people to sort of get out of their old way of thinking, to kind of engage into some more thoughtfulness as far as what they've been reading, hearing, and looking at concerning just life in general, but specifically in this season for the election and the two parties.
Absolutely. All right, y'all have a good night. We love y'all, and we'll see y'all on the next one.
Peace. Cognitive dissonance.